can always join late if they need to. So welcome everyone to today's author talk. We are very lucky to have with us today Penny Walter, and she lives in Adelaide, where we're based. So welcome, Penny.
Thank you.
And I've also got Eve with us. So I'm Angela from Onkaparinga Libraries, and we've got Eve also from Onkaparinga Libraries.
Hello.
So we'll be asking some questions today of Penny. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Penny, you can ask them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. So if you can't see a Q&A button, just hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen and the Q&A will pop up. And you can ask your questions there, and Eve will ask all the questions at the end. If you would like to borrow this book from Onkaparinga Libraries, or a lot of public libraries in the SA have this book, you can put it on hold online or pop into your local library and place a hold that way. You can also buy this book directly from Penny, and you can buy it at Dimmicks Glenelg. So Dimmicks Glenelg have stocked this book, which has been excellent to see on their shelves. And so you can give them a call or do it on their website as well. So this month, September, is Newborn Screening Month. So this is a really good month to hold this talk with Penny today. And in South Australia, there's about one baby in every 3,500 that are born with congenital hypothyroidism. So that's about 8 babies a year have this condition. And it's really important, the heel prick test, because like pre-1970, a lot of these issues that arose with babies weren't diagnosed and weren't treatable and couldn't be fixed because it was too late by the time it was found out. So the heel prick test is a really important development for developing countries, and most countries around the world have some program now with the heel prick tests. So it's really good that we're bringing it to light and that there's a book about it as well. So most people don't even give the heel prick test any thought, which is interesting, because if you have a baby that's born deemed perfect, then the heel prick test is just another series of tests and things performed in the hospital, so you don't really think about it. But when you are faced with the unexpected and have this result come back less than perfect, then it is a really big shock to the system. So this book is a really good book to reassure new parents as well. But I always I'm really excited to be here with Penny today, because myself and Penny have a child both with CH. So whereas my daughter's 18 and going out into the world, Penny's is 2. So we're both at different ends of the spectrum of childhood with our children. So yeah, I just thought I'd give a bit of an introduction for CH and this book. And I will ask my first question of Penny, which is, like, when I've looked around, this is the only book that I could see written about this condition. So what made you want to write this book?
I think a couple of things. One was I did exactly what the doctor said don't do. I went onto Google, obviously, as soon as they said that she had this condition, and I couldn't see anything except for some pretty scary images. And that was all like, worst case scenario if you're undiagnosed. I was like, well, how are we supposed to get... So I brought a picture about what it actually means to have this condition rather than just all the worst case scenario situations. So yeah, there's very little to hold and to actually sit at home with and feel comforted. But I guess the main reason that really came about was that I guess I felt a bit of a loneliness in knowing that there were other people out there, but I didn't know where they were and who they were, and I couldn't connect with them. I didn't to be able to find out what their story was. All I really wanted was to see someone or to speak to someone who was 6 months ahead of me. Not a million years, just 6 months, to tell me that the medicine worked, that it got easier to administer, that blood tests were manageable and livable, that you can get through it. Just someone who was that little bit further ahead. So someone actually suggested me, a lovely perinatal psychologist called Dr. Heather Matner, read one of my other stories, and she goes, oh, you love writing stories, write down your story. I'm like, nah. But then she goes, no, do it. So I did. And the trickle effect's been quite wonderful. And it's created some all these other reasons why it was a good thing to do, because it's got me as talking with other people about it. So many people in my world actually have hypothyroidism, which is and take thyroxine. And it's a newborn screening awareness, not just for congenital hypothyroidism, even though this book talks about that diagnosis in particular, but it sort of brings home the importance of getting that test done, and what early intervention means. So undiagnosed is a pretty scary situation for any child that has an abnormality in their Hill prick test, but diagnosed for a lot of the conditions that are picked up. If you're diagnosed early on and medicated or treated and medical intervention early on, it's a very different outcome. So our little one is, she's 2 now. She's developing great. She's met all her milestones. She's running faster than both of us and doing everything that you expect from a standard toddler, which is, every day you do the meds, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, thank goodness for this Hill prick test. And that's why I wanted to write the book, I think, to give a bit of comfort to especially new parents, I guess, but also children who are a bit older and might feel a bit uncomfortable about talking about their condition, or not know how to talk about it, or tell their friends why they have to have regular blood tests. So I think all along the track, it starts off with the whole reason was about the newborn bit, but it's moved on to be a supportive book for anyone who is impacted by this condition. Like, the soccer kids have books about their favourite interests, the big thing in their world, and this is a big thing in a child with a diagnosis world. Like, to have the medical team be part of your world every few months and regularly, that's part of your life every day. So I hope it helps to get people talking about it, but to comfort anyone who's affected by it.
Yes, that is excellent, because when my daughter was diagnosed, there wasn't even Facebook or any of them social connections at all. So you really did just have Google, which, as you just said, wasn't always, it was less than stellar, I will say, what you can find out on there. So it is really good. And I know your book has sold in America and all around the world with people that got this diagnosis.
Over 200 copies now, which is
That's amazing.
Worldwide. Yeah, it's quite shocking, especially considering it's that's since March, 6 months, and we've had a pandemic, and it's a niche market book, and a first-time author. So I've had everything kind of going against me. So I'm pretty happy with that number.
That leads perfectly into my second question: is, did you always want to be an author, or did you always think you were going to write a book?
A little bit, but in that sort of dream bubble. So I think most kids, if you ask any 10-year-old what they want to be when they grow up, they're probably like an astronaut, a doctor, and they have a list of about 5 things. And I think I wanted to be a jeweler like my dad. I wanted to sing on the stage because I saw 42nd Street. I thought that was amazing. And I loved books, and I wanted to write stories. And so that always sort of sat in the background. And then I've had a few options for creative outlets with writing over the years. And so I've got a childcare background, and we write learning stories for the children to send home to their parents. So I do a little bit there. And then I nannied for a few years, and I used to write stories about the adventures little girl and I had, and put that into a display folder for her parents, which they really enjoyed. So that's probably the closest I came to writing anything of a book sort of thing until this. But so when Heather mentioned doing it, I was like, no way, no one's like, I'm not Mem Fox. No one's going to want to read this or know who I am. But then, I think it's the juice is worth the squeeze. You've got to have a go sometimes. And but yeah, I love books. The smell of books. I'm not a Kindle person at all. I like books. I think it's very nice to hold something in both hands and be able to turn the pages and smell it and that sort of stuff. So I'm glad to be on people's shelves, be able to be part of that.
How long did it take you to write the book, like from when you had the idea to do it to it being published? What was the process? How long did it take?
Although I'm traditionally very much a pencil and paper person, I'm a bit rubbish with technology. It'd be late night feeds. So Ruby would be asleep in this arm and just fall asleep, and I'd have little pockets of ideas. It's a rhyming book, so I'd be like, oh, that rhymes with that, and I just So I put it together, and I pull out my phone and jot it down in a memo little app bit on there, bit by bit, and then I put it all onto paper eventually afterwards. But it was pretty much all written with her in one arm as about maybe 4 to 6 months old, somewhere around there. I think I can have these like quiet bits, and then as soon as I've got the idea, it tends to sort of tumble out pretty quickly. So the words tumbled out pretty quickly. I sort of edited them a little bit, and then when I took it to Greenhill Self-Publishing House in Port Adelaide, I wanted to keep local and that sort of stuff. I was like, oh, I haven't drawn any pictures because I'm not really a drawer, and I haven't drawn anything since high school. And I'm 35 now, so that's a long time ago, not doing any art classes. And they're like, well, an illustrator can cost up to $100 per page. What? Like, we're on one income and I'm at home with the baby. We can't afford that. So I was like, okay, I'll go home and have a go drawing some pictures. So then I sat down each night. I wasn't writing down the words anymore. I had the baby still here, and I just started penciling down the pictures on my lap with the other hand. And it sort of all kind of came out like that. But it was a really nice process because she was there with me, and I was still, it was very cathartic to write it down and to then draw the images. There's a couple of pictures in the book that just, every time I drew them, the waves scene in particular, and the mum and dad, or Andy and I holding the baby, they just, I cried through the whole process of writing, of drawing that page and making those pages come to life. That was very, very, very cathartic.
That was very interesting about what you said about the illustrators, because that was one of my questions. What, because, you know, a lot of people have illustrators and the author that's different. And I thought, what did you like the most, illustrating it, or like once you, obviously now you've just said you not good at drawing, but did you find that you liked it? Like, what did you like more, the writing or the drawing?
Funnily enough, like I'm a bit of a wordy person. I've always enjoyed words, as I said. I've always enjoyed books, and so I really enjoyed the writing, but I really enjoyed the drawing. I think I enjoyed that, like they're almost on par, but I think the drawing is like a few percent more. That was really, it was a really interesting process. Like, and so Unexpected Outcome was the first lot of illustrations I did, and then the second book about to come out soon. So then I had a bit more confidence behind me drawing this one. I was like, okay, I've done a series of drawings and tried to draw them as well. And it's really like, it's unraveling. It's really cool. Like I literally was drawing stick figures before, or like the very, very crude, sort of style drawings. And I mean, and they're quite simple, but I kind of like that they're simple. The whole point of the book, even though people said you go offshore and get illustrators cheaper and that sort of thing, I was like, yeah, but one of the big things that was really important for me was keeping the book really gentle. Like, Ruby was diagnosed at 5 days old, and we had to go back to the hospital and get her under the machine to scan for the thyroid. She was tiny. It was all so scary, so daunting, that this book had to be really gentle. Like, I felt like our whole world was neon bright lights, and I just needed pastels. People need to speak softly and be really kind of gentle about it. So the book had to be simple and gentle to make it accessible, I think, because for a lot of people reading it, it's possibly one of the most, not heart-wrenching as such, but like one of the most kind of raw things to be talking about, because if you've got a child with a diagnosis, there's nothing more personal than your child. So it had to be really gentle to, I think, to get the message across in the right way. Like, doctors have their words. These are words from a parent who knew what they were going through in the heart sort of aspect. Yeah.
I think you did very well in that aspect.
Thank you.
As I said to you earlier, I read it to my daughter and I had tears in my eyes, and that's now 18 years later. So it was definitely a great book. What made you decide to donate $1 from each book to the Metabolic unit?
Someone had mentioned, like, money makes the world go round, doesn't it? Everyone needs money. As much as everyone hates it a bit, we all need it. And I think funds given out by the government can only be so much, because they've got to go to all the different pockets. So I think once I came out of our fog that we felt with the diagnosis, there's a little by little this something kept growing. I don't know what to call it, but something kept growing inside of me, and I was like, I want to do something. I want to be able to help. I help my baby each day on the home front, but I want to be able to help other people, and I hope the book is helping the parents initially and little kids. But then someone mentioned that there are more things they could be testing for if there's more funding potentially. Like things are always growing, medicine's always expanding, and you need money for research. So as a thank you to the metabolic unit for being available to us pretty much. Like these doctors are amazing. I didn't even know they existed at all. Like, I'm like, what's a metabolic unit? I didn't know that was a thing. What's an endocrine doctor? I didn't know that was a thing. So I never had to use these words before. Yet they're these amazing people who have studied to look after our babies. Like, how cool is that? That they care that much about newborn health. And so I was like, well, how can I help them? I'm not going to go study be a doctor. So how can I help them? I was like, well, maybe a bit of money will help towards their growing research. So that's where the dollar per sale goes to them, and I think every little bit helps. I'm sure it's not a great deal, but it's every little bit helps.
Yeah, that is very true, and I sort of think they unfortunately get to see parents and newborns when things have gone wrong. So when you think of the emotional toll on them as well, they're not like having the joy of delivering a healthy baby that's all joyful. There's a lot of parent sorrow and angst around the whole diagnosis. So it must be very hard for them too. And I know for me personally, having Dr. Drago there at the beginning when she was born and still seeing him today is a really beautiful thing for us. He's been a big part of our lives, and I'm sure he'll be a big part of your life as well. So my last thing I'd say is, if you were to give one bit of advice to a new parent, what would it be?
Oh, that's tricky. I'm not quite sure. Just quite simply, it's going to be okay. Like in a very gentle, understanding kind of way. It's going to be okay. Those first few weeks are exhausting for any parent, because you're experiencing a sleep deprivation like nothing you've ever felt before, and you're going to feel, hit like with a ton of bricks when you get the news. But it's going to be okay. The medicine does work if you're getting your blood tests regularly. If your doctors are working with your doctors, then it works. And my little one, your not so little one, are living evidence of that. So I think quite simply it will be okay.
Yeah, that's.
And one way or another, there's lots of people to talk to. I think. Like I didn't. I think. There is a community. It might be a little bit hidden. I'm hoping the book makes people talk about it, so in a different way. Because there is a hidden community out there that they don't mean to be hiding. They just sort of, you don't know where they are. You don't know how to find them. So,
that is absolutely correct. So I'm going to pass over to Eve now and see if she's got any questions from the audience.
Yes, Penny, we've got a couple of audience questions that have come through. So the first one is, well, you mentioned a second book, I think, a little bit earlier. So what are your plans for the future?
Okay. Well, I've recently returned to work at a lovely childcare centre that's nearby us. So we're located in the Adelaide Hills, and this one's in Harndorf. So I'm doing that a couple of days a week. So that's my immediate little bit. On the author side, I've got the second book is about to come out. It's with Green Hill Publishing at the moment, and I was really, really happy to be working with them again. I do highly recommend them. They're a lovely group of people who really listened to what I wanted with both An Unexpected Outcome and with the next book, which is called Both Me and You. And I got into childcare because I'm a big advocate for mental health, and I think the younger it starts, the better. So for infant mental health, all my books have a bit of an infant mental health aspect of looking through the eyes of the child. So An Unexpected Outcomes written from the child's perspective, or the child's a narrator voice, and the next book is the same. So it's still got the infant, the narrator voice of the book. it's not of a medical nature, so it's a bit of a broader group of a target audience, if you want to call it that. So, and then from there, there's a couple more books that are in dribs or drabs or bits of paper floating around my desk over here. They're sort of like stuck to bits and pieces. Now that I've returned to work, I don't have these glorious 2-hour periods called nap time, where because both books were written and illustrated either with Ruby asleep, or the next one was older, so it was always during nap time, like, right, she's asleep, do the dishes, quickly put the washing away and sit down and smash out an hour on the desk, and then yeah, so I don't know, we'll see how long the next one takes after that. But both me and you, the proof copy is pretty close, I think, so that's the next one. Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah.
So our next question is, what tips have you got for other people who might be wanting to write a book or heading down the self-published path?
Do it. Absolutely do it. If you're scared, do it even more. Because I didn't think anyone would want to read it, and not because I didn't believe it was good or important, just because there's that self-confidence aspect. But do it. I think I like to support local where possible, and Green Hill, like I said, are located in Port Adelaide, so they're local South Australian publishing house, and you can have a meeting, like write your bits down, however that looks for you. Do your drawings if you want to, however that looks for you, or you might have a friend who's good at drawing, and then take it, because worst case scenario, you have a meeting and you go, no, I don't want to do this, and you go away. Or you might find that it's a really good conversation, and then you might have a book on the shelf.
And speaking of, you said, mention illustration. So did you do the design for the cover as well? Because the style's a little bit different than the inside illustrations in the book.
Yeah, so the foot's mine, but the wonderful Gina at Green Hill, she has quite a gift with what she does. So she composed the front cover, sorry. So she picked the fonts, and she gave me a couple to choose from. That's of their process, and I was like, yeah, no, that's the one, I reckon. I love the way, like the T, using the T as the heel prick bit. That's her genius as well. So full credit to her for that one. She did a really good job. A couple of people said to me, they're like, oh, isn't it a bit it's a bit brutal to have little bit of blood on the front page? I'm like, well, not really, if this is now a reality for your world. Like, this is the heel prick test is taking a drop of blood. That's what it is. But it's for the right reasons. So it's not designed to be brutal. It's designed to be honest, really. But she did a great job. Yeah. So the foot and the blood drop are mine, but the design is hers. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Thanks, Penny. That's all the questions that we had come through. So I'll hand it back over to Angela.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Just touching on what we would like before we went live, we were talking about some other books that you were thinking about with the other diagnoses with the heel prick test. Is that something you think you might do?
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. There's a couple of things I hope to spin off from here. So Dr. Drago Brakovic at Women's and Children's is not only a wonderful doctor and person, but he's been a really great support of the book as well. And he actually came and he spoke at the book launch, which we managed to get just before the world went a bit crazy with pandemic stuff. Managed to do that a couple of weeks prior. And he had said there that he hopes it becomes part of the counselling program, like with in doctors' offices around Australia, and it might. He hopes that it expands to doing like a series. So there's about another 4 conditions that are picked up in the heel prick test that they see very regularly, and PKU being one of them, and cystic fibrosis, and there's a couple of others. Now they're not something that I have had a personal experience with, obviously, so it'd be something that would have to be collaborated on, which is really exciting too, that to be able to meet other people who've had a different outcome but still an unexpected outcome from their heel prick test. So yeah, it might be a series on the horizon, but and all in the name of helping people manage the unexpected, pretty much. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see what happens there.
Excellent. I'll try and keep up to date with what you're doing, and it'll be exciting to see your new books come out. I think it will be very well received. So thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure.
It's been lovely to chat with you in person and not just on the phone.
Yeah.
And thank you to all our audience that attended today as well. If you would like to view this recording later, it will be on our website, and we will send a feedbackly form out for people to fill in, just to give us some feedback about what they thought about the session, and if you've got any other suggestions for any other online author talks, that would be great. And also, if you like our Facebook page, Onkaparinga Facebook page, we put all of our author talks and promotion on there, so you can do that as well. I think that's all I have to say. Yes. So yeah, Facebook, like our Facebook page, look out for our email. Thanks to the audience for attending. Thanks for Penny for attending. Thank you,
very
Eve.
much.
Bye.